I'll bring it
You
in.
can bring us in. You can bring us in.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is your girl, Marilyn Monroe, here at the Culture Club with my good girlfriend and licensed therapist, Naquana Z. And then we have also, my cousin,
Mm.
Miss Green Eyes. Today's conversation is about mental health. It's a very loaded topic, but however, we will kind of start to kind of get through just the beginning stages of um, the signs. We'll start off with the signs. But before we get started, how's everyone today? What's your temperature check for everybody? How you
I'm
feeling?
doing good, considering what's coming up in my life for me, I'm hanging in there. So, like, a part of my healing is having people in my life like you. So, I'm
Good.
doing good.
Good.
And I'm going doing good as well. I have no complaints, and even if I did, I try not to because a lot of times people don't want to hear it anyway.
Amen. Right.
But I'm doing okay. I make sure I check in on myself and things like that. So I feel like we gotta learn to clap for ourselves. Sometimes we don't have that support for various reasons. So I'm doing okay. And I did you do self inventory on the weekends and stuff like
That's
that.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. So, the topic to start. Let me just do an intro to this. I think our community, our culture, often with mental health, we don't identify, nor if we do identify, we don't have it properly treated. You know, everything in life requires maintenance. Some maintenance is more frequent than others, like your nails. Most people do it bi-weekly. Your hair bi-weekly, those type of things. I think in our culture, our community, often our parents, our friends, we tell ourselves often we can deal with it on our own. I'll pray about it. I'll just deal with it. I'll just do better. And they try to self-treat. And that's when a lot of times with the self-treatment of mental health, um, it goes south. So let's start off with like the signs. Like what have you had, both of you, had uh regarding like signs of like someone with poor mental health or a mental health battle?
Do
I
you
let
want
the expert take it.
I would say some of the key signs I see in adults, some kids, but adults is the surefire way I know something's going on mentally is if they don't check on their health. Like if a person never goes to the doctor, they never go to the dentist, and then you talk to them about it and they have some kind of fears around it, or they're like, oh, I'll get to it, things like that. It's something they're avoiding, it's something that they're fearing and things like that. The second thing is hygiene. I can usually tell when something's off when hygiene is off. So if people are not, it's difficult being in property management for so long. In the last 10, being a manager and having to have hard conversations with some employees about their hygiene, how they're coming to work, how their work is slacking. It's a lot of things piling up on their desk, things like that. Usually those are the signs because it's starting to impede on your everyday life.
Yes,
Hmm.
I agree, and I'm glad you brought that up. As bosses and leaders that we are in the industry in which you used to be in,
Mhm.
we have to recognize. We are in position to recognize. The poor hygiene, the tardiness, the missed work,
Mhm.
even just like the disposition or possible anger or not able to complete tasks, regularly. That's something that, I've had conversations with, my employees about. One particular employee, it was just more so just his, when he would come to work, my spirit more so, and it was just weird. My spirit kind of connected over time to see that it was either some type of abuse going on. I didn't know what abuse it was. And then everything, like one day he came and his phone was broke. And I said, I wonder if it was broke during a issue or altercation or something. And I just kind of like tuned into that. And later on, he and I became really, really good friends. And I discovered it was definitely like mental abuse being done to him. So yes, it's our job to tune in to our employee. And sometimes it's, sometimes you feel like you're kind of intruding, but you just have to find out, for the best interest of the business. So I agree, Quan, with that.
Yeah, because your star employee could be starting to come to work late or getting very angry, and they never were lashing out at people before. So stuff like that, you should always look out for.
Or opposite, I would say, because I was the person who the manager had to talk to once upon a time. My brother got murdered back in 2015, and I didn't even realize it, but I was using work to cope. And she let it go on for like a few weeks, and she called me in the office one day, and I'm thinking it's about something else. And she said, like, we need to talk. And she was like, I don't want you to be offended, but it's a part of my job to do this because I'm watching you kind of tank. And I was like, what are you talking about? She was like, I'm getting emails from you at 6 a.m. and I'm still getting emails and you're here at work at 9 p.m. She was like, and this has been going on for 2 months. She was like, you are using work to cope. And she had a bachelor's degree in psychology. So she like clicked in, like what Ty just said about her employee. She like clicked in and she was like, I needed to kind of take a scope for a while. And she was like, the last 2 months since you've been back from, leave from being away for your brother and stuff like that. She was like, I can't time my watch by. She was like, you're here all day long into the night. And she was like, I will call HR and put you on the leave if you don't go get some help because you are not doing well. And I was so mad at her, but I was mad at her because it was right. I just was like, I don't know how to deal with all that's coming out because of his death. So I think that the way she did it was very firm, but she did it in love because you got to be also careful how you treat people. Because people will lash out because you're pulling up something that they don't necessarily want to deal with because it's very, very emotionally hard.
Yes.
So,
it's very touchy situation. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. And I felt the same way with this former employee. I felt very and it was almost like, again, when I said it's very different from whatever I'm used to. It was like the spirit talking. Like, it was some things I even said that wasn't even deemed as appropriate. Like, just the question. But it was like I just kind of tuned in and I saw the mental anguish. I saw the, constant I gotta go, I gotta pick up, I gotta do, and it was just like, wow. It was very disturbing to say the least. But Miss Greenhouse, what you gotta say?
Yes.
No, just basically the same thing because my field of work is a little different. So I know I deal with mental health every day. Like the people that are at my job, the things that I have to do, like I have to catch people doing things and fire them. And mental health could be part of the reason why they do what they do. So my job is a little more dangerous and risky. And I have to throw myself in the middle of not knowing what mental health I'm going to be dealing with at that moment. So
yeah, that's a little rough.
Yeah, like how do you like it's hard to say how to deal with someone when they have mental health issues because like we just said, it's so broad that you don't know which mental health person you're meeting that day. So it's hard.
Yeah.
That is true. So what about mental health within a relationship? Like that like it could be one or both. And then it could be one that just totally, has those issues or a issue. So mental health has a lot of layers, right? So it has and we can all name some like anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, PTSD. What are some other ones?
We were mentioning OCD, bipolar 1 and 2, and knowing the difference. You got OCD, and that has there's different. It's like about 10 different types of OCD. You have ADHD, which people think is a learning disability, but it's not. It's in the DSM-5. It's a cognitive disorder. Dyslexia is also another one. Dyscalculia. You have autism spectrum, and you can have autism and ADHD at the same time, or dyslexia and ADHD at the same time. Some things are co-occurring, you know what I mean? And then you have to treat both of them in a like sometimes totally different ways, and things like that. But then you have other things like just dealing, sometimes the stress of dealing with day-to-day things, is construct you, you know, it weighs on your mental. So I would say sometimes people come to therapy just to like figure out how to alleviate some of the stress they have in their life because they don't know how to get things off their plate. So I talk to my clients when I notice they have like a bunch of things going on, and or they always adding stuff. I'm always say, if you're always adding stuff to your plate, or you're always into something, that means one, you're keeping yourself busy. And why? Why are you keeping yourself so busy? Why are you not making any time to like, it's okay that it's Saturday and there's nothing to do. I don't know why grown-ups still think that, oh, weekends, we got to do something. No, some Saturdays I sit here in the quiet and mind my Black business. You know what I mean? But when I start picking up on you always at the church, and that's fine, but my pastor even say your home comes first. Then you come at the church. But if your husband coming home and it's dark and it's ain't not no food and no plate in the refrigerator, there's nothing going on, them kids is hungry, and then you always there. Why we can't get men to go to church at times is because they'll start resenting church and stuff like that because you always there. You need to attend to your home first. That's your first ministry. You told God you was going to do that. So that, like, I just mentioned a bunch of things, but there's a lot of different things that you got to learn to pick up on, even if you with your loved ones. So us on a day-to-day basis in our homes with our children and stuff like that. If that person cannot settle themselves down, it's something that they're avoiding and they're putting things in its place.
Mm,
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
that's good.
That was good because there's a
Oh,
lot of people that think that you can only have one mental disability and not
Mm-hmm.
multiple. So
yes.
Mm-hmm.
you speaking on that, saying like you can have OCD and anxiety and all of that at the same time. You have to treat each one different. It's
Mm-hmm.
important for people to know that.
I
Mm-hmm.
also think, and you're right, but I also think a lot of times, um, all of the layers of possible someone's mental health is not always recognized. Like someone could be diagnosed with anxiety and schizophrenia, and then it could totally miss the depression. And like sometimes they're just diagnosed for one or two things or just one thing, and it's
Mm-hmm.
others, based on
Hmm.
the behavior and, like you said, the just the way that they, I guess, carry it out. So what
Mm-hmm.
do you think about those people that aren't treated, that aren't treated with either medication and of course therapy, and how and why does people find that therapy is not a good thing when it,
Mm-hmm.
it, it is.
Because they don't want to deal. It's the same. They don't want to deal. A lot of times people fear coming to therapy. And I would say in my personal experience in the last 4 years since doing this, I would say people who run depressed, people who have some personality disorders like, schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder. You can't have schizoaffective disorder if you don't have depression or bipolar. So
Mm,
some things you can't get diagnosed with if you don't have a baseline of something else, right? And then so those are the people who usually have a hard time coming because one, they even feel like, well, it's not gonna do any better, right? If I have a personality disorder and everything, even though I'm struggling, and I've been homeless for years. My dad was that person. I didn't know where my dad was or didn't get reconnected with him from 8 years old to 28 because he was homeless much of that. And then when he wasn't homeless, he was in and out of mental hospitals because he had schizophrenia and depression.
mm,
And once he got himself together, he found me. But it took all those years for him to consistently work at it, to get himself in a good place and things like that. So that way, with therapy, medication, all that kind of stuff, having a regimen, having a day to day that was pretty much consistent because that's what they need. So I think that it's really important for us to know with our loved ones, if we detect depression and stuff like that, that you try to support them. You can't fix them.
that's
You
right.
can't fix them. Try to support them by saying sometimes people will come and say, I'll go with you. I'll come with you for the first few sessions. When it starts to get deep and it's stuff you don't want me to know about, I'll back off. But I'll come with you to every session. I'll sit in the lobby with you. I mean, I'll sit in the lobby while you're in the room so you know you have support. Sometimes people need that, especially if they're dealing with like depression, and it's not just like situational depression, but you're talking about like depression disorder is never going away. They really, really do need a lot of support because they deal with a lot of shame. They're stuck in a lot of like, if you're really close to your mom and she died, it's like, what do I do without my mom? Or what do I do without my babies? Like I planned to be a mom and I didn't get to see my child grow up. Variable different things like that. People kind of get stuck in that depression and they need support, not ridicule, because they're not the same as they used to be.
Mm.
Yeah.
Amen. That is so true. And that all hit home. She hit all my buttons on that one. Whew.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm.
Oh, you are talent. Like it's
Doing it
important,
together.
like to care for yourself. Like
Mhm.
if you have mental health
Mhm.
issues, to actually treat it, like you said, to get into a regimen. I think oftentimes, people lose themselves into other things that really is not going to help. Um, can
Hobbies,
we
like she
speak
said, are
about
staying at work.
can we speak about those who suffer from mental health issues, and they also, because sometimes it's hard for me to understand.
Mhm.
Sometimes mental health issue is almost used sometimes as a card.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this, a card, a get by card, and then it's like, okay, that's intentional and that's ill
Mhm.
will.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
like what would you say about like those people?
Mhm. Well, I mean, I had a professor explain the difference. I was like, I struggle with what you're talking about in terms of like, I believe, and it was a few years ago, so I want to make sure I'm doing it doing it justice. I remember asking him, how can you really detect, like, people these days are throwing around somebody's a narcissist all the time, and it grinds my gears. Or they'll joke around and say, I'm so narcissistic, I have to this and this and that. And it's like, you don't really want to be diagnosed with NPD. You don't. That's the one diagnosis that a person has, if they legitimately have it, that there's no medication for it. And if they don't stay in intense psychotherapy for the rest of their life, they will start to go backwards. So all the work that they do to try to not be what we all know a narcissist to be, if they don't stay in intensive therapy for the rest of the duration, they will go backwards because they will go back to like their ways, because that's the only diagnosis that doesn't have a real, like, where other diagnoses, if you stay in your therapy, you take your meds if you need them and things like that, you'll get better. You don't have to have OCD for the rest of your life, right? You don't have to have anxiety, or you don't have to be you don't have to stay in that depression unless it's
Yes.
major depressive disorder for the rest of your life. So he told me, I said, what about a psychopath and a sociopath? How do you tell between the difference between a person that's narcissistic, a psychopath, and a sociopath? He said intention. It's the intention. So if I intend to do something to you because it makes me laugh, like the Joker. It makes me laugh, like the movie The Joker. Like
Yeah.
it does something to me. It builds me up to watch you
Gratification.
suffer, and I at my
Yeah.
hands. Yeah. Whereas another person, it's like, you're like, what is wrong with you? Might be like, what is wrong with you, or why did you do that, and whatever the case may be. They might not have any of those diagnoses. They didn't intend to hurt you. They didn't intend to their behavior to affect you or the workplace or the home or anything like that. That doesn't mean that nothing is wrong because the intention was bad. So it's like, okay, well, what happened? Why is this behavior like this? We usually see this in children, where it's like, well, why are you acting out? Like, what's going on? Because, like, children usually show something's wrong through behavior. They're not going to really tell you. You know what I
Yes.
mean? So if your kid is acting off, it's like, I'm getting calls every week, and it wasn't like that from your school. Like, what is going on? And they might not tell you for a long time, and they be acting out, but really they're getting bullied. Or really, what if the household change? So if we had a split, if mom and dad, or it's not even really bad. What if dad had a really good job somewhere, or mom had a really good job somewhere, and she has to be gone for a month? That's just changing the household. That's changing the flow of the household. And children, depending on what age they are, they don't really know how to connect to, I had to work. This is for the family. They just know, like, where's my mother at? She's been gone for a month or two. You know what I mean? And I know y'all said it's for work, but I'm used to her being here. So I think that, and then all I just said was very layered, because that's, you know what I
No,
mean?
and I'm
I'm
following
following. Yeah.
Well, it's very layered, but those are the variables. It's intention. If I intend, and you can usually tell because people have a consistent track record of doing devious, they're just a deviant. They just mean. They just, if you ever, and I always would say, especially when I in property management, because that's outside being doing therapy, that's the bulk of my work experience.
Yeah.
I can deal with a manager who's just mean. I've had managers who just mean, and they mean every day. They just a mean person. But when you come in 1 minute, you flowers and sunshine, the next minute you doom and gloom, the next minute you just nasty to everybody. It's like, what's going on? I can't deal with a person like that.
Yeah.
If you're a manager, unfortunately, who just you don't like confrontation, so you don't really deal with what the problems are in your team, right? Or if you're a mom and you don't like confrontation, you might not really address things that you need to address in your home, right? And so it's like, I can't really get used to that because that's problematic
Yes.
in so many ways. I wanted to go back a little bit. So if you have a situation where, your child or, your spouse or something like that is dealing with some kind of anxiety disorder, let's keep it simple, right? And under the head of anxiety is PTSD, CPTSD, OCD, and a couple of other things that fit under that head. But then you can just have general anxiety disorder. And you're like, well, that's something that's not hereditary. ADHD is hereditary, dyslexia, all of those things. Your child or you can't have it unless your mother or your father had it, right? But with anxiety, that's not true,
That's
right?
right.
And
Right.
it's like, well, where did this come from? What triggered your OCD? Because the baseline of OCD is control and perfection. So what made you start having pure OCD? A lot of times, sometimes it's just mental. So your one side of your brain is telling you, if I don't do this, if I don't make sure I wear one black fingernail every day, every time I get my nails done, then something's gonna happen. And it's like, what went on? Well, the main caregiver that you had passed away. And the way you learn how to cope and you felt out of control because they were sick before they passed away is you develop OCD. That was the trigger. And you feel like you're paying some kind of homage to them by making one of your fingernails black. And it might sound real trivial and silly, but that's what happens because people, especially children, know how to cope. But then you can have another person with OCD, and it's based off environment. If you go back to what Ty was saying in the beginning, if I have a parent who had anxiety and they never did anything about it when they was raising me, and it's a learned behavior. So that means it's environment. I developed anxiety because my mother operated with anxiety. Everything she did was through the lens of anxiety. She was fearful of everything. So we couldn't do this, we couldn't do that because she had real bad anxiety. And we was thinking like, why we can't do anything, right? But she wasn't going to admit that she has anxiety. Because why would I want to admit that? Are they going to take my kids? And does it show that I'm not capable? But now you got children who develop other issues that came from your home because you didn't deal with yours.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So that we have to learn the difference between things that are hereditary and things that happen from events and things that happen from environment.
Yes.
And just like you said, people don't go to the doctors, so they may not even know that they have something wrong with them.
Nope.
And people are always saying, "What's wrong with you?" And they just think nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Or it's normal. You know what I mean? People, I've seen a bunch of people say, well, I just thought it was normal. And guess what? It's like, oh, my mother was this way. Oh, my dad was this way. I thought it was normal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My God. So
Yeah.
we're at almost 25 minutes, and I don't want to keep you, but I want to finish. I want to kind of end it with a little bit more regarding the narcissist.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad you brought that up because that is a mental health disorder.
And there's
Very
no
much
treatment.
is.
Mm-mm.
and it's no treatment. Like that was a shocker to me.
Mm-hmm. It
So
don't, and it doesn't go away. You learn to live with it, hopefully in a healthy way through treatment. Because there's no medication. There's no medication to help you balance out chemicals and different things like that. You know what I mean? So narcissism comes from intense abuse in childhood, usually in childhood. Sometimes it's the highlighted child. You know what I mean? And 9 times out of 10, you had a parent who was narcissistic too. So you was the golden child in your family, right? And then you have other children in the house, and if the parent didn't like them, because that's the truth. If you have 3 siblings, and if I was raised by a narcissistic mom or dad, I might use one of those children to pit against the other kid. It's really nasty. Or because we only talk about it in the context of romantic partnerships, but 9 times out of 10, you either had a parent who was extremely abusive, you grew up in a house with a lot of physical, mental, and emotional abuse, and the way your brain learned to cope is you have these behaviors. So you have, the covert narcissist, which is very hard to detect and is devastating once you realize, oh my God, I am a victim of narcissistic abuse. And sometimes it takes years to put it all together and to see how a person weave this tangled web of just destruction, and you were the victim of their foolishness, basically. And it's so hard for a person to unravel all of that and get out of that, that when you finally do get out of that, you need therapy for years to unpack all the stuff that you like encountered, because it's like, oh my God, none of this was real. But then we usually notice the grandiose narcissists. They like a lot of attention. They want to be the center of attention. They just that dude or that chick. But underneath it all, they nasty. They're very mentally and emotionally abusive. Some of them, if you're a malignant narcissist, those are the ones who are really, really nasty. They will kill you. They will do all kinds of nasty, manipulative things to you and things like that. It can run really, really deep. And that's the one you'll notice, before with anything. Like, you already know, when you're dealing with a malignant narcissist or grandiose narcissist. But the covert narcissist is really, really hard, because you don't really detect certain things until years later, and you already real deep in it. And you're like, when you start to tune in and stuff. So when you were talking about you like notice certain things in a relationship with a person, it could be your spouse, it could be your mom, your dad, or a friend or something like that, and you might start to get clued in, and you like, now I know I ain't crazy, and I know I ain't stupid. I like to say I'm pretty intelligent, and I got the Holy Spirit, so something ain't right. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
and you might go to the person and be like, okay, when I put 2 and 2 together, it always equal out to 4. Something ain't right with this. You know what I mean? And they might be like, what you talking about? You, man, see, here you go with that again. I have no idea what, they just, or they'll play nice. Yeah, I mean, and they'll act like they open it up. So they'll tell some truth and a whole lot of lies in that.
Yes.
Right. Well, I went through a lot when I was a kid, and I was abandoned, and this and the whole nine. And that's to make your heart soft. So then you stay another 3 years. Oh, I'm gonna be friends with her a little bit longer. She just need a little bit more, support. She just wrapping you up. She just reeling you up, and you get wound up so tight over the course of years. And by the time it really, really dawned on you that, oh my goodness, this person has really, really been, they have used all my money. They have used a lot of my time, all my resources, because they take, and you don't realize that they taking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what scares me the most?
Mm-hmm.
Like, really what scares me? It scares me.
Mm-hmm.
Those that falsify information,
Mm-hmm.
but then I guess
Mm-hmm.
they learn to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
That's dangerous.
Very, very dangerous.
What
And they
would
really are convinced that they're right. But I want y'all to know, the big thing here is they know what they're doing. A narcissistic person knows exactly what they're doing. It don't matter what type of narcissism you have. they all know exactly what they're doing. And that's one of the biggest devastations. It's like that's intention. Like I said, you knew
Yeah.
exactly what you were doing. You knew when you cooked up. It is so hard. It's so many layers to get through the cheating. Like, you know what I mean? That you really put the work in to cheat. It's not a mistake.
Yeah.
You knew exactly what you were doing. As my pastor would say, you had to get in the car. You had to stop at red lights. You had to get to the hotel. You had to hit the button. You had to wait for if it's the hotel, you had to wait
Elevator.
for the
You had to go and put the key in the
you had
door.
all of these times
Right.
that you could have just turned. But a narcissist will do it over and over and over again. And you'll start to, because as let's get on women for a while. As women, we have that extra sense. And you like, the first time you might be like, all right, I'm gonna put this in my Rolodex. But as you notice a trend, because they start getting sloppy because they really think they outsmarting you, it's like, no, you are messing around on me. Like, you are messing around. And you might give them a pass the first time and come all out. But they will find different ways to hide it from you. But they know exactly what they're doing. When they drain your bank account, they know exactly what they're doing.
Yep.
And they choked your child out, because it gets that bad with these people. They knew exactly what they were doing, because they might be jealous of the child because they taking too much of your time, and they need all of your time. So that's why I tell people, listen, when you start to notice that a person is sick in that way, stop giving them passes. You need to pack up your knapsack, as my grandma would say, and get on. And I don't care if you got to live in the studio with your 4 babies, but y'all safe. You know what I mean? Because that person knows exactly what they're doing. And you got to decide, I want my life, and I want a better life for if there's children involved. And it's hard to leave, right? Especially when you have children. But it's like, do you want to leave in a body bag, or do you want to leave with your life?
Yeah.
That's
So,
big, because this is one of the mental illnesses with no treatment. That's big, because there are lots of narcissistic people out here in the world that will deny it until they've turned blue.
mm-hmm.
But
And they the victim. They the victim. They're
And
always the
they are
victim.
the victim.
Yes.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
that's incredible. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and you said it when you kicked it off. You said, and you brought it up. You said it grinds your teeth when people just throw the word narcissist. You're a
Mm-hmm.
narcissist. And it's like, it's almost insulting to throw that. Like, it's very much you're misdiagnosing someone because of
Mm-hmm.
they create boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people create boundaries, they catch on to you, they set standards, they rearrange the arrangement because
Mm-hmm.
they caught on to you. And when
Mm-hmm.
you then react, you're the narcissist.
Mm-hmm.
You're the narcissist, and it's just, I've seen it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's disgusting.
Mm-hmm. It's very sickening. It's sickening to watch a person go through it. And you know how, like, people say, girl, if it was me, he couldn't have been hitting me, I'd be out. You don't know that. You don't know that. He couldn't be doing this to me, or she couldn't be doing that. Like, I'd be out of here, man. Like, ain't no chick gonna do that. You don't know that. Now, men are, because they're wired differently, right? So men are logical first and emotional like number 3. We're like emotional first and logical like number 3, right? So it might take us a minute because our emotions so wrapped up. So some men, I'm not going to say all, can probably move away from it more easily than we can, because people can pull at our heartstrings. So we start getting invested in, and then we try to start fixing these people. Like, we got to get out of that. Like, the people will start trying to fix a person or trying to help them in different ways and stuff like that. And you wrapped, and you look up, and it's like 5 years of your life gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it's really important for us to not joke around about stuff like that. And not think it's super funny, or it's a way to like lightheartedly describe a behavior that you have. If you really had OCD, or you really had PTSD, you would be praying that your brain is healed. You really would. You don't want, literally, with OCD, it's one side of your brain telling you, if you don't do something, you will die, literally. And the other side of your brain is saying, no, that is not true, because you did that. You forgot to do it the other day. And while you were really stressed out about it, you didn't die. You know what I mean? That's why it's a lot of exposure therapy with certain things and stopping the patterns. If you have compulsions and stuff like that, like outward manifestation of your OCD, interrupting those patterns and stuff like that is really, really important. But do you want to live with that the one side of your brain is like, and then they fighting, they attack each other. This side of your brain is like, that is not true. The other side of your brain is convinced, yes, it is. And that's a real thing. And some people, if you don't struggle with that, you can't understand it. And you feel like, oh my God, like you gotta do something about yourself, like, or just get over it. If they could just get over it, they would, because it's a struggle every single day. If my heart did not have to ache about my husband dying before we just started, and 5 years in, he died. I can't just get over that. We had a whole life plan.
Yeah.
Do you know how hard it is to find a good person out here and then you get married and then they die? Like, that's tough. Do you know how some people struggle with baby? My best friend has lost like 5 babies, went through 2 rounds of in vitro, and she cannot hold a baby. That's tough. So when you have a person who had children and then something happened, they didn't make it through a full pregnancy, or they made it through a full pregnancy and then something happens to their baby after pregnancy, they can't just get over that. That's not fair to do. And I get real passionate about grief and loss. Y'all know that's my jam, because if I could just get over it, I would love to not feel this way.
Yes.
And I know that person is not coming back, and I have to grapple with that, and I have to deal with that, and my heart has to be at peace with that, and my heart and my mind has to be aligned. Sometimes that takes several years to be like, okay, but guess what? It don't ever really go away. You just learn to deal with it. You just learn to move on with your life. Nobody said you had to forget. So if you have people in your life just talking to you like that, honestly, I tell people these days, especially 40 brought a whole new thing for me. I just don't have time to explain to you that how I need to be supported right now. I don't have time to explain to you consideration. We are grown-ups. So if you're talking to me and telling me to just get over it, or if you're talking to me in any kind of negative way, I don't need that, because that's not going to help me heal. And it would behoove you to be like, you know what? We're going to take some space. Or honestly, I'm going to let you out. You need to get completely out of my car. You cannot, this is where you get dropped off at.
Yes.
And mean it. Because if they're not going to support you and whatever time of distress you have, then you just don't need it.
That's
plain and simple. It's very black and white. They need to go.
That's right.
So yeah, that's the antidote. Because you need support, because it's already hard enough dealing with your day to day. So if nobody's being supportive, I had a lady at church, her son, he's still living to this day. I think he's over 30 now, bless God. But she was talking about her son had childhood cancer, and she said she would not let anybody in the room, or she would let them leave out of the room if they were in there talking any kind of negativity. Because if she's creating an atmosphere of healing, and she's inviting the Holy Spirit in, and she's praying over her son and all that kind of stuff for God to heal his body, you don't need to come in and say, oh man, like, what are they, he's pretty small, or is he going to make it, or different things like that. It's like, nobody needs to hear all of that. My child is battling cancer, and I, as a mother, cannot exchange my health, then give it to him, and I'll take the cancer away. You know how hard that is for a mother to watch that child suffer, and you don't know if they're going to live? No, you got to get out. Don't even visit the hospital.
That's right.
You cannot come back. Yes. And I think people are afraid to do things like that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to me and my child, you gotta go. So I think that's where I would leave the whoever's watching that. Like, you have to be, you can't, as people say, you can't play about, somebody will say, oh, I don't play about her, I don't play about him, I don't play about my kids. No, you can't play about yourself. Don't let nobody play with you. I always tell my little young college student clients, listen, you ain't got time to play with nobody's son. You not if their mother and father didn't do what they supposed to do, you cannot fill in that void for them.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, you can't go out trying to save people.
Yes.
You have to definitely save. They teach you that on the airplane.
Exactly. Seriously.
get your things in order.
Mhm.
And then by that time, you'd be too tired to save somebody. In case
Right,
of emergency, you like,
right.
see you guys
Save
tomorrow.
yourself. You know,
Yeah,
people will say,
save
my kids
yourself.
come before anything. My kids come first. It is not wrong and it is not a sin to put yourself first. Because if you're not okay, as I said, environment, your kids will struggle.
Yes.
So you gotta come first.
Yes.
Yeah.
They'll struggle, and then, like you said, they can learn to adopt that way of life, like that
Mm-hmm.
thinking.
Mm-hmm.
You're passing it on to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Yep.
agree. Well,
Yep.
Quan, please tell them good people of Culture Club Combo where to find you, locate you, because you are an amazing therapist, like an
Thank you.
amazing therapist,
Let
and
me
like
tell
I'm
you,
so proud that you.
I don't know if she realizes this, but the last time we had her on, my dad had just passed away. And then
Oh
We did a grief conversation.
and
We
now
did
it's
our grief.
almost a year. So on the 26th is a year. So
no.
this
Yeah.
was good for me anyway. I love when
Yeah.
she comes on. She's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
So
you.
please share with the Culture Club Combo your information.
So I am a therapist at Safe Harbor Behavioral Care. So and you can go on the website and you can look at profiles. My profile is there. And you just call the number and tell them, see if I have any room on my schedule. I don't have a lot of room on my schedule. I have about 37 clients. So I don't have a
She is
lot of
that
room
good.
on my schedule. But nothing beats a failure but a try. To reach me directly, it's 443-839-8157. My email is Naquana Zimmerman at Safe Harbor Behavior Care .com. So you can reach me there. I'm sorry, BC, not B, don't spell out behavior care, it's just BC.com. So those are ways you can reach out to me.
And I'm just so like, every time I talk to you, like I'm so excited that because you always like gave me therapy
Oh,
even before you became a therapist.
yeah.
Because you're my good friend. And so
Thank
I
you.
really am excited about, you're amazing. Like you are amazing.
You
Thank
are.
you. Thank you.
So
And
I
platforms
love
like
having
this.
you on. I love listening all the time. And one thing you said that was so important, don't stay so busy that you forget about you.
that's
Mm-hmm.
going down, and that's going down Culture Club conversation.
Yes.
Quotes. What you
Yes.
used to say, Quan?
Prioritize yourself. Prioritize
Yes.
yourself. I
Yes.
cannot say that enough. Prioritize yourself. Do not put yourself number 10 on the list, because how often do we get to number 10?
That part.
Not often.
Yeah. It's not selfish, it's self-preservation to put yourself first.
That's right.
Yes.
With that said, Culture Club,
Mm.
we are ending this conversation. We thank you so much, Naquana
Thank you,
Zimmerman, our licensed
Naquana.
therapist, and of course, Miss Green Eyes, and myself, Marilyn Monroe. So you guys have a wonderful Saturday, a wonderful
Yes.
weekend, and self-preservation.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you for having me, guys.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
dear. Love you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.